Today on the show, it's official. Adrian Peterson will not be playing in the NFL this season, assuming he loses his appeal.
And Clem from the Clem Report will be joining us to discuss the NBA, and we'll talk about Brandon Marshall wanting to fight Twitter trolls, plus Ray Lewis takes a stab at Twitter.
And the very latest college football playoff rankings, and we'll review the week in the NFL and give you some picks. It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Welcome back, everybody. It's the Sean and Bo Show. Hope everybody's doing well, staying out of the cold weather and the snow. Thankfully, we don't have any of that yet. But Jose Canseco has done what Jose Canseco does, and that is find very illegitimate ways to make a dollar. This time, Bo, he shot off his finger.
Yeah.
He was cleaning his gun. Gun went off. So did the finger. Then got it reattached. Then was at a poker tournament where his finger fell off.
Yeah. You know, not only does Canseco have a problem with snitching, cocaine use, alcohol, domestic violence, he's wrecked a few Ferraris, now he's shooting off his hand. But on top of all of it, he has a gambling problem. He's sitting at a poker table where he cannot leave, Sean, not even if your finger's falling off. So there was some serious money being played.
I think it was like a poker tournament. It might have been a celebrity deal. But what's disgusting is that, okay, he's now selling this finger on eBay, which, if you know Jose Canseco, makes a whole ton of sense.
Yeah.
But he was saying prior to it falling off that it was starting to smell terrible, gross.
Yeah.
He said that they shouldn't have reattached it, that they just should have amputated because it wasn't even attached to a bone or anything. It was just some limp finger dangling off of his hand. Oh, it's disgusting. How would you like to be at that poker table sitting right next to him?
Well, what makes it worse, Sean, is I don't know if you've seen the Twitter page of Canseco, the young lady that's sitting there with him, giving him a kiss. Golly. Like, if you're her, I hope that he didn't promise you that he had some friends at acting or modeling, because he's lying to you. All he knows how to do is write books on steroid use. So, you know, let's just move past this, and I hope that this does not raise money. But I know people in this country, Sean, and around this world, they'll probably, what do you think, 20, 30,000 for that finger?
What the hell would you even do with it?
I don't know, but who are these people who buy these things anyway?
Not us. We ain't got that kind of coin.
Yeah, so I imagine there's some weirdos out there that have money to spend, and they're going to get a hold of this finger, and they can do it at whatever they please.
Maybe he'll have a change of heart, and he'll like donate it to the Baseball Hall of Fame so that a part of him will be in Cooperstown because he's not going to get in.
Or no, maybe the government can partner with him, and they'll just it'll be like a PSA announcement, and they'll show a picture of Jose Canseco in his A's uniform. Then they'll show him when he was, writing the book and promoting it, and then they'll just show the finger, and they'll say, "Kids, don't do cocaine and steroids."
I can't remember who it was on Twitter, but somebody was saying that they should buy a racehorse, feed the racehorse the finger. I mean, whatever it takes to win. I don't think that would pass the drug test necessary to race if it ate his finger, but it sounds like a decent strategy. Now, the biggest NFL story right now, Bo, is Adrian Peterson. We've talked about this ad nauseum on previous episodes, but they have now come down with a ruling, and Adrian Peterson will miss at least the rest of this season.
Yeah. Big news, especially if you're a Vikings fan, and they had a glimmer of hope there if they thought he may come back and could give Teddy Bridgewater a little bit of relief. But now that that's gone, you have to start to look to completing this year and thinking about the future, because not only did you not get a year of service out of your all-star back, your all-pro, Hall of Fame, Adrian Peterson, he's aged. He has aged a year on the sideline. He has aged a year dealing with court proceedings. Is he the same back when he comes back? We don't know. The clock is always ticking for everybody, Sean. Adrian has been able to beat that clock once, but that was a situation where you're getting everybody's patting you on the back. oh, we hope you get back. It was horrible to see you get your leg done like it, when it went down. He had his surgery. He came back. He had all that support from Minnesota. Now you're kind of out in the cold. Nobody's calling. You're not the guy that they're going to bring onto an ESPN show to talk to you because they want to see where you are in your rehab. You got to do this on your own. And I just wonder, 30-year-old backs don't do so well in the NFL.
Well, I can almost guarantee that the NFLPA is not having this. Not only that, but they're not going to allow players to get on that what's it called, the commissioner's exempt list or whatever he was on, because none of that counted towards a suspension. It wasn't like time served or anything like that. So I think you're going to, guilty, innocent, bad parent, great parent, whatever. This will mark a big change in the way NFL players handle themselves, what they agree to with these settlements when they do get in trouble, because the NFLPA is going to appeal this. Do you think that the appeal has a chance?
Oh, yeah. I really do, because if essentially it is a job, it's a career, it's a profession. When you go into court, all you do is cite other cases. So there's never going to be another case in America where someone lost their job based on domestic violence and they do not directly work with children, or they're not in a capacity where they're a caretaker. So, the last time I checked, the qualifications to become an NFL player, nothing says you have to be good with children. Let's be honest. It's the same reason why they're not recruiting people straight out of the military to go work in daycares. There's just certain people that are for certain jobs. And you cannot take away a man's right to earn and provide for his kids. I don't care how much money they make, America. Let's not be jealous because he's a multimillionaire. You cannot take away the right to provide just based on a domestic violence case. It'd be unprecedented. There's no other case in America like it. So
it turned out to be a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
So you've had guys literally kill people in DUIs and get 8-game suspensions.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, it's unprecedented. It's going to usher in a new era. Part of me thinks if they win this appeal, part of the agreement is going to be that Roger Goodell can't be both judge and jury on this stuff anymore. I mean, the mishandling of the Ray Rice case, Adrian Peterson certainly probably because of that being punished even more excessively than he would have been had Ray Rice never happened. So it's going to be interesting what happens with this case. I think that the appeal probably does have some legs. I know that the settlement that the punishment rather that the NFL laid down didn't even say a specific amount of games that he's going to lose. It said that it depended on Adrian Peterson going to therapy and his progress with that, and him not having another infraction.
Yeah, they're totally separate. It's only in the modern era of the media, pro football, because you really don't see this treatment of any other celebrity or athlete. I mean, golly, there are guys out there that make blockbuster movies that have domestic violence charges against them. There are guys out there who are on hit TV shows that have fathered children out of wedlock and never been around in their lives and have made a living telling the mother, don't bring this child around. Yet it's only the NFL that seems that they're too big that they can't dodge that bullet, Sean. So we have to start separating the two. Number one, doing the show. Number two is people that watch the sport. If you have a team, if you have a favorite player, you follow the sport, when these incidents arise, you have to stop thinking of these people as if they're supposed to be held to a higher standard. They're just out there for our entertainment. That's all they are. They're entertainers. But because of the sponsorship and what goes along with the Shield, we hold them to that standard and we think they need to be punished beyond the law. You can't do that to people. That's why there's lawsuits, ladies and gentlemen. You're just going to make this guy richer. That's what will end up happening. He'll sue, and he'll get games lost, and he'll sue for everything else, and you'll find out where Adrian Peterson settles a $23 million deal out of court. Like, we need to stop with this, Budweiser. I mean, remember the statement Budweiser released? I mean, golly, has there not been enough people getting beat up at baseball games, people falling out of the stands to their death in front of their children because they've obviously had too much alcohol, for you to realize that you really don't have a place to comment on these subjects, but we continue to hold them to this higher standard in the NFL.
One thing's for absolute certain, Bo. In fantasy football leagues around the country, everybody is laughing at that one guy. It's like, there's a chance he could come back. I'm going to claim him.
Second overall pick in my league. He's sitting out there. Somebody picked him up like 2 weeks ago when they thought he could be playing, and I just seen him a few hours ago get put back out there on the free agency wire. So it is a sad day for us fantasy football people because Adrian Peterson, man, he's a points getter. Ugh.
Over the weekend, following the games on Sunday, several teams were investigated by the DEA. Now, at issue here is prescription painkillers. And what I was told was that the only reason why this investigation happened, well, first of all, it was only on road teams. It was 4 road teams, including the Seahawks and the Niners, that were investigated. The issue here is that it's illegal for the doctors, the team doctors, to take these narcotics across state lines. So it's like the only reason why this investigation happened, it's not about like, are there too many painkillers in sports or anything like that. It's simply a matter of where were these prescriptions for the team doctors, for the players filled? Was it in the home state or where they were playing that last Sunday?
No, it's a common thing, Sean. We often laugh about that. When I was a college football player, you would take chartered flights. So you would not go through the traditional, bend over, let's do a cavity search to make sure you're not working for Al-Qaeda before you get on the plane. Various players would have, tons of ailments and things going on, nicks and scrapes, where they would be on prescriptions. Naturally, what would you do? You'd throw it in your duffel bag, you'd put it on the plane, and you'd take it with you to Colorado State, or you'd take it with you to California. Now, the trainers also would have stuff too, and we would joke as players. They're like, we really just took all these Valium from Albuquerque to L.A. Just nobody checked, nobody asked any questions. You think about the potential because it wouldn't be the first time a bunch of NFL players got together and said, hey, guys, we could sell drugs, It could be going on. The trainers giving it out to the players, I don't know the severity, but this is one thing I was thinking. When I heard it initially going down, I was hearing about it on the radio. I thought to myself, I wonder if they got a tip on illegal drugs. That's when, like the DEA, scripts, prescriptions.
Well, a source told ESPN that, quote, the inspections were motivated, not sure what that means in this context, by allegations raised in a May 2014 federal lawsuit filed on behalf of several prominent NFL players who alleged team physicians and trainers routinely gave them painkillers in an illegal manner to mask injuries and keep them on the field. Now, to that I would say, were these players asking for those painkillers? Because I'm pretty sure you can't, go behind a giant NFL player with a syringe full of painkillers and inject it to him, without his consent. Yeah. I mean, that's got to be the stupidest lawsuit I've ever heard.
That's dumb.
That they wanted the painkillers, and then they're turning around and suing the teams because they gave them what they wanted. So that was the nature of the DEA investigation. A fine use of all of our tax resources, I'm sure.
Great.
Can't think of anything else this country needs more than the DEA investigating NFL teams.
Here I am thinking, they heard somebody's in there popping mollies or giving out cocaine or something. No, we're going to protect a bunch of millionaires who we know probably threaten the little poor trainer who makes $33,000 a year. I'll throw you up against the locker and rip your face off if you don't give me that. Or you stick that in my knee right now, or I'll kill your children. Like, seriously, the DEA is really going to come to the aid of these guys. And I know right now in Chicago, there's probably some kids that can't even go to the bus stop. Get out of here, man. Come on.
Now, Bo, do you remember on a previous episode of the show where we talked about USC's Josh Shaw, the heroic Josh Shaw.
One-time hero.
The toddler drowning, saving Josh Shaw.
Oh, gosh.
Well, we know how that story turned out. He was, of course, lying, made the whole thing up, jumped out of a window and injured himself. There was no child drowning or anything like that. Well, he's now been reinstated by USC, surprise, surprise, after serving the 10-game suspension for violating team conduct policy. But the interesting wrinkle of this story to me, Bo, is that we finally found out what actually happened.
Nice.
Okay, so here's what went down. Two neighbors called 911 because they heard a very loud, seemingly violent fight going on between Josh Shaw and the lady he was with. So the cops showed up. He panicked and jumped out the window and landed on his feet wearing only flip-flops. He was wearing flip-flops jumping out of a 3-story window.
See what you did, Ray Rice? You got little kids in college jumping out of windows because they're so afraid to answer the door on a possible DV. They probably could have talked it out with the local police officers, maybe got instructed to go to some classes at the local community college and get some help. But he's running because he's afraid after what happened to you. Golly, when are people going to learn? You tell kids all the time, Sean, whenever you work with the youth and teenagers that may be at risk, whenever you see law enforcement, what do? And you know what? Everybody's first answer, they all raise their hands. Run, man. You don't want to get caught. No, you don't run. Stop running or they're going to start shooting at you eventually. Golly, Shaw. Grow up.
Coming up on the show, we're joined by Clem from the Clem Report. We're going to be talking about Brandon Marshall wanting to fight people from Twitter. Plus, speaking of Twitter, Ray Lewis finally joined up. And we'll take a look around the league and the NBA, some of those storylines. And Giancarlo Stanton's massive contract, $325 million. We're going to get to that. It's coming up on the Sean and Bo Show.
This is Bo of the Sean and Bo Show saying hi to all our loyal listeners and reminding you to check us out at seanandboshow.podomatic.com. That is seanandboshow.podomatic.com. And remember to share us with a friend or a coworker and let them know you can check us out also at funnelcakesportsradio.com, and we're still on YouTube and iTunes.
Welcome back to the Sean and Bo Show. Bo, one of my favorite Twitter followers out there, we've had on the show before, and it's been a while, so we thought we'd bring him back. He's a guy that knows something about Twitter and Twitter jerks. He's at The Clem Report, theclemreport.com, a contributor for KFC Radio, and Clem joins us now. Clem, how's it going, man?
Good. How's it going, Sean and Bo?
Oh, we're doing great here. It's good to hear from you, man. I just got to tell you, I work in elementary school. Having you hooked up there on Twitter right in the middle of the day when I got some screaming kids, you're good for some good laughs there. Keep it going, man.
I appreciate it. Like I said, my wife tuned me out years ago, so it's an outlet to get an audience. So I appreciate the kind words.
It's the only person he has to talk to, and it's a keyboard. Follow him, people.
Is that what we've all been reduced to? You get a relationship, and now we just talk into mics and talking to our keyboards.
You got it, man.
Now, Clem, I'm sure you saw this all over Twitter for about the 24 hours that people were talking about this story. And that is that Brandon Marshall wants to fight you in real life. Well, not you, but a fan. This all started because somebody insulted his mother. It was a Detroit Lions fan. And as we all know, it's just some things you don't say about somebody's mama. Right?
Yeah.
So it started off when Brandon Marshall tweeted this guy, I'll give you $5,000 to get in a ring with me. All right. And then he continued on. He said, if I lose, I'll give you another $10,000. If I win, you have to serve 100 hours in an orphanage. All right. So this guy kind of went into hiding. He went on the run. He made his Twitter account private, and so nobody could reach out to him or anything like that. But then he came back. All of a sudden, when everybody thought this is just kind of blown over, he tweeted, February 14th, F the 3 wins, St. Valentine's Day Massacre, homie. Let's do it. And this is my favorite part. And to the people that want to see it, I'm selling ticks.
Man.
So 2/14/15 is when this fight's going to go down. Now, Clem, you're closer to the action than us. This is going to happen in Detroit. So if you could find your way to securing a handy cam or something and going and getting some footage, I think there's money in it for everybody involved.
Yes.
I've never seen someone die in person before, so I guess that would be an interesting way of going about it. Oh my God. Yeah, that guy's nuts. I think we've all dealt with Twitter trolls, and they say some things that you're like, "Whoa, that was really off base." Even tonight, I had a guy calling me out, and I said, someone who doesn't even follow me, I don't even know how he got my Twitter account, and they're just calling you names and stuff. Now, I'm just some stupid blogger in New York you don't know. Brandon Marshall is a physical specimen with noted mental problems in the past. What are you thinking?
He's 6'4", 230 pounds. Now, I'm 6'6", about 260. No way in hell I'm taking $25,000 to go get my jaw broken by Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, and you better believe, Clem, that a man that's willing to spend $25K on a fight will spend a little bit more money to find out that URL. What do you think?
Exactly, man. The internet, you can be gotten no matter how. They can always track your IP address or whatever. And get $25,000. That's Brandon probably forgot to put the zero at the end for $250,000. That's chump change to him. He doesn't care. It's nothing. That's a commercial.
Man, I got buddies that'll hack into your ex-girlfriend's Facebook account for $20. So I'm pretty sure Brandon Marshall will find somebody to find that guy.
What do they call it? The deep internet or whatever, where like all the information, it's like 99% of the internet and we only use like 1%. All that information's out there.
Yeah.
And to bring up the orphanage too, it's like if you say no to that, it's like you're just the biggest jerk in the world. Oh no, I don't want to work at an orphanage for 100 hours. So Brandon Marshall played this beautifully. I love it. I can't wait to go to Detroit and see this fight, and I never thought I'd say those words.
I got $100 on your plane ticket. I'm just throwing that out there. And that kind of begs the question: do you really want a Twitter troll insulting people's mamas to be working at an orphanage? It could probably go pretty bad, right?
That is a good point. That is a good point right there.
So I wonder what happens if Brandon Marshall comes to his senses and doesn't acknowledge this guy again. Was the first offer like legally binding? I mean, it was in writing, technically, correct?
I'm sure some lawyers out there, they can make it all work, like Johnny Cochran back in the day, or was it Jackie Stiles on Seinfeld? If it's on Twitter, it has to count. So yeah, I 100% agree, man. I think they can make that work.
He's Clem from theclemreport.com. Clem, I'm sure you saw this last night. Ray Lewis has now joined us on Twitter, @RayLewis. And well, the Twitter community welcomed him with open arms, right?
Yeah, they all decided to say, "Hey Ray, you're killing it out there." Or, "Hey Ray, please just realize that if you tweet someone, you can't just burn up the tweet and make it disappear into thin air like you did your clothes and the murder evidence and stuff like that." And kind of going back to Brandon Marshall here, you want to poke at Brandon Marshall. He's a little unstable, sure. But, Ray Lewis has allegedly been a part of a murder.
Yeah, that's right. There's crazy quirky, like you're wearing panda shoes on a basketball court. And then there's crazy violent, like I'm going to stab you.
It almost reminds me of, I had this weird and crazy thought one day. I was having a few drinks and I said, man, could you imagine if Twitter and Facebook were around when the likes of like Lucky Luciano and Al Capone were walking the streets? And we almost have it with Ray Lewis. It's almost like people are able to make the jokes about, hey, seen you do that drive-by in downtown Chicago. Hope all is well, and it's real. Like this guy really was on a murder case and he got off for it. If you could tweet out something to Ray Lewis right now, Clem, what would you say?
Well, Bo, it's funny you say that because, to go behind the curtain here to all the listeners, I was talking to Sean earlier and, we were talking just about Twitter and stuff like that. And we talked about Ray Lewis. So I said, you know what? I'm going to send Ray Lewis a tweet. So I did. And I sent him a Vine I made a couple of weeks ago. And I said, every time I hear Ray Lewis on TV, this is all I hear. Murder, 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 murder. I don't care what he's talking. He was talking about the 3-4 defense and, how to play a cover 2. But all I hear is murder, 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 murder. And so if you guys don't hear from me, if I don't tweet in the next 24 hours, you can cancel that $100 for that Detroit. I'm not going to need it.
Well, Bo and I put together some of our favorite tweets that we saw out there to Mr. Lewis. And some of these are just pure comedic genius. But yeah, I mean, you really do have to worry about the safety of some of these individuals. Like, Ray isn't laughing too hard. And that sort of begs the question, what the hell was he thinking? What does Ray Lewis possibly have to gain by joining Twitter?
I'm telling you, this is not him. This is that company that I'm at war with personally. I don't know if you've joined the crusade. It's the mothership. Because they sit around in a room and they think the things that they do and think up are all clever and it's going to get tweets and hits and everybody's going to talk about it. But really, we're just sick of it. Because even this guy here, at Travis Rogers, says, I'm not sure Ray Lewis joining Twitter was a good idea. This guy apparently plays guitars for a living. And he thought it wasn't a good idea. So who at ESPN who drives a Bugatti or some sort of high-end Mercedes thought this was a good idea? You know.
Well, he's already gotten like this afternoon. It was like 35,000 followers. In less
of
than,
course.
So they're obviously getting clicks.
Do you understand? He played in the city where they filmed The Wire. he can get enough followers out of that city alone to make it look legitimate. But if we really investigated the accounts, I bet half of them have rap sheets.
I bet if you're watching The Wire close enough, you could probably see Ray Lewis in the background at some of the scenes.
Yeah, he's in there.
Yeah, he's like Marlowe's enforcer or something like that.
Have you ever seen that one video? There's a new one that came out. It's like a documentary about these kids who ride four-wheelers and dirt bikes through the ghettos of Baltimore. Have you seen that one, Clem?
Yeah, sure did. My brother and I were watching that the other day, man. Different world, man.
Oh, it is. And I'm just saying to myself, like, I'm not surprised that these are the people that were sad to see what happened to Ray Lewis and Mr. Rice, because that community is on a whole nother level.
Here's one of my favorite tweets at Ray Lewis. Welcome to Twitter, and by the way, you're a murderer. Enjoy hell. It's succinct. It's to the point, you know.
I like. Do you have a suit I can borrow?
From Pepe Sylvia at Ray Lewis. Remember when you killed a person? That was pretty neat.
Short, sweet, and simple, man.
Let's see, a couple more. At Ray Lewis. You're a murderer and God doesn't exist. Hashtag welcome to Twitter. And finally, Jesse A. Carney tweeted at Ray Lewis. Do you miss that white suit? These are important questions that need to be asked. Oh, one more. Ray Lewis is so religious. Ray Lewis has 6 kids to 4 women.
Going back to that suit comment, the other day, fellas, I went to a wedding. I got a little bit of sauce on my shirt. Went to the dry cleaner. They couldn't get it out, and it like broke my heart throwing my dress shirt away. I can only imagine. I mean, Ray Lewis just burned suits for fun. I mean, I couldn't even imagine being that rich. I could just do that for fun.
That suit probably was worth like 5 years of my mortgage. That he burned easily.
And going back to that fateful night, I just wanted to mention this because this was one of my favorite videos from a few years ago. It was TV Funhouse on Saturday Night Live. I don't know if you guys remember those little sketches they would do.
Yeah,
sure.
It's called Ray of Light. So just Google Ray of Light, SNL, TV Funhouse, whatever, and it's kind of like a Disney movie, but with Ray Lewis, and it'll have you just dying, man. It was a really funny video, and it's still up to this day, and it makes me laugh. So check it out on Google. It's not on YouTube. You got to Google and go to like a different site, but it's great.
My favorite Ray Lewis minutia is that after he won the Super Bowl, they wouldn't allow him to say, "I'm going to Disney World." Like your reputation is taking a big hit when Trent Dilfer is the guy that gets to be in the commercial.
Yep. And as a Giants fan, that just rubbed a little salt in my wound. So thanks, Sean.
And that right there, I think it highlights even a greater point, and it's going to help me get us into what I think, the mothership does a good job of highlighting the current condition of NBA franchises, especially one that notably has a 1-9 record, and that's the Los Angeles Lakers. If this was going on with an NFL franchise, Clem, it would feel like the world's going to end, notably Oakland Raiders or the Detroit Lions several years ago. But right now, we're in a state where the NBA does not even measure up to where the NFL is, because the owner of an NBA team, Mr. Mark Cuban, can come out and say, I hope the Lakers are bad forever. You couldn't imagine a Mr. Kraft or Jerry Jones coming out and say that, because Goodell would fine them. And the Shield is supposed to be, supposed to respect the Shield and not say things like that. But currently, the state of the NBA, you have a 1-9 franchise that is supposed to be your New York Yankees. It's supposed to be your Green Bay Packers. And I don't think anybody really cares. I don't hear anybody talking about it. What about New York?
No, I think people kind of like seeing the, dagger twist on the Lakers after the last few years where remember the Gasol trade a few years ago and everyone was like, "Oh, they just completely fleeced Memphis in that deal." And even though it wasn't as bad as it looked at the time, everyone's just so sick of LA being good and to a lesser extent Boston. And now we're just seeing Kobe go back into that mode that he was in after Phil, after he was just shooting nonstop, trying to, bring up the sinking ship by himself, which is just going to make it sink even faster. So, I agree. I love seeing the Lakers. I love seeing the Lakers struggle, but it's really not as big of a deal, when it's all said and done. I mean, maybe that's because the Knicks are just as bad here.
Yeah,
So
I was going to say, you like watching anybody besides the Knicks struggle. Is that true or false, Clem?
I mean, misery loves company. So whenever my teams are out of the playoffs, I want everyone else to somehow lose because misery loves company, and I truly, truly mean that.
That is true. Sometimes it's not as bad. Maybe Oakland fans wouldn't be beating each other up and hurting people in the parking lot if they didn't have to watch the Niners go to NFC Championship, Super Bowls, and compete for the NFC West each and every year. Whenever the brother or your so-called rival is in that same funk that you're in, it's a little bit easier. If Phil Jackson gets those Knicks going in the right direction, maybe it will be total anarchy in LA. We'll see.
Exactly. And kind of, going off of that, there was some rumors, or I don't know if they were rumors or people just kind of spitballing, but people are connecting the dots saying, hey, Kobe's contract is pretty, kills the Lakers, and no one's going to want to sign with them to play with an aging Kobe. Maybe Phil goes and kind of smells around, see what he can do, give them a little bit of young talent, some draft picks, have Kobe come to New York, and him and Melo with one ball would be a little scary. But maybe Marc Gasol comes here, signs. We get those three guys together. We've seen what Gasol, Kobe, and a scorer can do in a triangle in LA with Phil a few years ago. So I'm hoping, as a Knicks fan, as someone who doesn't even like Kobe, I'll take him at the twilight of his career just for that one ring, because that's all it takes to make this all worthwhile. Because I'm starting to feel like I may not see a Knicks championship in my life.
I see how you're working, Clem. It's a rumor, just got floated out somehow. I don't know where that came from. And a week from now, we see it on ESPN, and Clem did it. He did it.
As heard on the Sean and Bo show.
Yeah.
Well, somebody that didn't ingratiate themselves with their fan base this last week was one Derrick Rose, who, when discussing his rehabilitation from injury and his propensity lately to be taking days off, he said, quote, "I feel I've been managing myself pretty good. I know a lot of people get mad when they see me sit out, but I think a lot of people don't understand that when I sit out, it's not because of this year." Okay, good so far. "I'm thinking about long term." Okay, good so far. "I'm thinking about after I'm done with basketball." Ooh, not so good. "Having graduations to go to, having meetings to go to. I don't want to be in my meetings all sore or be at my son's graduation all sore just because of something I did in the past. Just learning and being smart." Now, this was almost universally panned by the media as just incredibly stupid. I don't know how you see it, Clem, but I mean, it's hard to think of the last era of basketball, even 10, 12, 15 years ago, how this would have gone down, even on the court. I mean, I can't even imagine the backlash that you would get for saying something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of the new athlete, new generation. They're being a little more frank. You have Twitter and direct pipeline to your fans and stuff like that. But kind of like we were talking about earlier with the Knicks, Patrick Ewing, I saw that guy. He had the knee braces since he was a rookie in the league, and that guy would play every night. They called him a warrior, and that's what he was. And he went out every time. And he didn't win a championship, but he gave it his all. And it kind of concerns me. I love Derrick Rose. I love what he stands for. But this thing really does concern me because a lot of time the difference between winning a championship and not winning a championship is that guy who makes that, extra sacrifice. And he's blessed with that, with all those gifts, those physical gifts and everything. And, it may sound great to be in a meeting 30 years from now not feeling sore, but, that ring on your finger probably makes a lot of that sore go away.
What the hell kind of meeting is he in that he's worried about being sore? As much money as he's going to have at the end of his career, he can probably hire full-time masseuses that just constantly massage his legs while he's sitting at some conference table.
But this is what I got to ask. You know, they have meetings with Adidas, Under Armour. You see the guy doing the Cold Cuts commercial, the old Ziggy. You know, they have meetings with people who did something. But what are they going to have a meeting with Derrick Rose about? You played half a season this year. You had a good season at Memphis. You had a few Adidas commercials.
That's cold-blooded.
Like, really? What did you do, man? Like, and what's sad about it, you remember that 30 for 30 about that Benji from that famed high school, Simeon High School?
Oh, yeah.
He wore that jersey. And it's just like to dishonor that and that what that means, that's even more earth-shattering in Chicago than just him sitting there talking. And I think it's great that we live in a world where nothing can be said, Clem, without Charles Barkley weighing in. And courtesy of NBC Sports, I have this right here. Charles starts in saying he's a great player and a great kid, but that was stupid. We're so blessed. I limp around, but I go home to a big old mansion, Barkley said. There are people that work harder than Derrick Rose that go home to a shack. There are consequences for what we do for a living. We've got the best life in the world. I'm a poor black kid from Leeds, Alabama, who grew up in the projects, and I don't mind limping around now. When I go home, I have a big old house. I've got good sheets. I don't know the thread count, but they're good sheets. I've got a big car, and I never have to worry about bills. Derrick Rose is making $20 million a year, and he's got a couple of bad knees. There are pros and cons to what we do for a living, Mr. Charles Barkley. What do you think about that, Clem?
I agree with Chuck like I usually do, man. He has it, 100% accurate. And, the coal miner who's, life expectancy is half of a normal human, and he's making 1/1,000,000th of what Derrick Rose is making, and that's probably even being generous. I mean, it's just crazy that and he sacrifices what he does every day for his family. Derrick Rose should have probably just cut it off at "I want to walk my daughter down the aisle" or something like that, and they would have said, "Oh," and then you say in meetings, "Get out of here." And Charles Barkley had a great line, and I think you guys would appreciate it. I remember he said a few years ago, he's like, "There's only 5 jobs in the world: a teacher, policeman, firefighter, a doctor, and people who serve in the military. Everyone else is just doing stuff to get paid." And Derrick Rose is treating this like a job. No, man, you got blessed by God to give you this athletic ability. Don't rub it in our face by saying I'm not going to play because I don't want to be sore down the road. Like those 5 jobs, those people can complain about anything. They're making this world a better place consistently. They're not here to just entertain us. So Derrick Rose, I mean, that's a huge misstep by a guy who I really used to look up to.
Yeah, really sad, and I think it's awesome that even when Charles Barkley is talking, he can make a statement that lets everybody know he's went from rags to riches. Because the fact that the man brought up the thread count and the sheets, I love it, man. Because that's one of the first things you would notice if you did go stay in Mr. Barkley's house. You'd be like, man,
what's this?
I slept really nice.
Is that Egyptian cotton?
Yeah, what is this? Is that silk?
Well, somebody else not having the best of weeks is Dwight Howard. Now, it started with everybody and their mama taking shots at this guy on the court, from Kobe and now Kevin Durant. You must have heard about this, Clem.
Yeah. Kevin Durant was calling out Dwight Howard. He was calling him some, explicit names, we'll say.
Meow.
Show. Exactly. And Dwight Howard just did nothing about it. And, we saw opening night, or I think it was the first week, when Kobe and Dwight were going at each other, and there's some bad blood there and whatnot. But, I mean, Kevin Durant, this guy is like, he's a pussycat in himself. He's this quiet guy who just goes about his business,
Bible in a knapsack.
Yeah, exactly. He dresses like an idiot with Russell Westbrook, and he's, 85 pounds soaking wet, and he's calling out Dwight Howard? I mean, oh my God. You must just be the most hated person and the softest 6'10", sculpted out of granite person in the world. I mean, Kevin Durant to even call you out is just mind blowing to me because the guy is such a good dude, and Dwight Howard, he wants none of this, man. He's nothing compared to a guy like Anthony Davis, the Brow, who's just dominating everyone right now. And Dwight Howard's not going to be the guy we all thought he was. That's the bottom line. He doesn't have what it takes. Kind of like with Derrick Rose, he doesn't have that that drive that you need to really become a next level champion.
Now, speaking of KD, am I the only person out there that misses the Mormon missionary on a bicycle look post game? He's gotten a little bit more avant-garde. He's trying to do the hipster thing, as you alluded to. But man, I miss the fresh out of Sunday school look on Kevin Durant.
Oh yeah, I do too. I can't lie. I mean, I don't even know where this is going right now. What's going to be the style in 5 years? What are all the superstars going to wear? I mean, this is such an autocorrect from the Allen Iverson days of wearing the Rockaware hoodie that was 4 sizes too big and the sweats on the court, So I really have no idea what's coming up next, but I am excited to, as someone who can blog and tweet about it, I'm very excited to see.
Hey, Clem, all those brothers play football now.
Yeah,
I'm serious. Like, that's why the NFL has to implement dress code rules and all that, because that's where all those brothers went. The NBA got, I don't know what happened, the international game, or it's too intellectual or something, but they don't want to be involved with. I mean, you seen what Dwayne Wade was wearing. I mean, there's buddies that I talked to. I have Denvis Mans. He played for the Dallas Cowboys. And I said, could you imagine after you got to carry the rock for the Dallas Cowboys, the greatest franchise on earth, and let me add in that, somebody coming to you, Johnny Versace, and saying, hey, wear these capris. I'll give you $100,000. I hope you would not wear those. And he just replies to me, and he doesn't say anything. He just looks at me, with the scowl look. He was upset. But I just don't think that these are the kind of guys. The fact that, like, KD says what he says to Dwight Howard, if anybody would have said anything like that to Charles Oakley, Patrick Ewing, just anybody from that era, they would have got a punch in the face.
Exactly. Or it would have been like, meet me after the game in the tunnel. That's what they always say. They say you meet after the game in the tunnel so you don't take money out your pocket because you're fighting during the game, and you got to be smart. You don't punch with your shooting hand because that's your moneymaker right there.
See, I like that. That's how men settled it back in the day.
No, yeah, exactly. Now, we talked about this earlier in the show. Adrian Peterson, of course, got in all kinds of trouble for disciplining his child or beating his child or however you want to phrase it. But Dwight Howard is also now being investigated for child abuse in a case that was originally closed because there wasn't enough evidence. Apparently that's changed because they have reopened the investigation, and I guess what's at issue here is an allegation that he whipped one of his sons with a belt. His attorney is saying it is troubling to see a mother use her son as a pawn against her father, which is what is happening in this case. Dwight Howard will continue to act in the best interest of his children and do whatever is necessary to protect their welfare and best interests. But man, this is not the time. It's certainly always very bad to be involved in any kind of abuse, domestic abuse, child abuse, any of that mess. But right now, in the heels of what's been happening in the NFL, this could get ugly real fast.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of bad, but it's almost like Dwight Howard. He's always like one step behind in terms of the trends, and he's just lame, man. I'm not a big Dwight Howard fan at all, and it's the whole. I know the child abuse thing is very tricky. I know some people say this is how I was raised, or I don't think you should be hitting a kid, and you certainly shouldn't be hitting a kid to the point where there has to be a court brought up, maybe a little pat on the butt or whatever. But this is Dwight Howard's way of he doesn't have the nerve to fight someone his own size. He has to pick on someone smaller than him, because I honestly don't understand how all this could really come through. It just makes no sense to me. I mean, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on the matter.
Well, what I was going to say, I wish I could, be in an NFL locker room. I had a buddy that was in one currently, because I just remember even in college, if somebody got a DUI in the conference, or maybe someone abused their girlfriend. I had somebody on my team my senior year. He actually domestic violence case against his girlfriend. A memo will go out from the athletic director, dean, coach, straight to the players. You don't need to be seen in a bar tonight. We don't want you out. There will be strict consequences if ABC happen, And right now, I would not be surprised if the NFL, NBA, MLB, hockey collectively have a statement going out to all players and personnel. Do not involve yourself in corporal punishment with your kids. Like, it is because I have a father who was married previously. I'm the product of his second marriage. He was involved in one of those situations where my brother told his stepmother, and she didn't like my dad. She called the sheriff just because she could. He spanked him. There were no marks. My dad had to go to some classes, but she was using her son to, create some trouble in my dad's new life. And, I can only imagine with guys who make, $1 million in a single game, what kind of troubles they have with ex-wives. But if I was an agent, if I ran a league, if I was a coach, I would be having a very stern conversation with my athletes and personnel. I'm not going to spank my kids. I'm probably not even going to yell at them for about a year.
No, Bo, they made that No More commercial. Isn't that all they have to do?
No more.
They've already done enough. Well,
yeah, those athletes too. A lot of the girls that go after those athletes, they are a whole lot of crazy too.
Oh yeah, man, I've dated them before. Golly, you're dating one. You're a little kid out of some small Midwest town, and then you get to college, you start, and you get it. The agents are talking to you. Everybody thinks you're going to go to the pros. Man, you'll have girls talking to you that 4 years ago would have laughed in your face, and they're all sorts of crazy, but you tolerate it. You tolerate it long enough. And I was just happy enough that I didn't have a baby with one of them. So I'm going to just knock on wood, move past that, and I thank God every day for the beautiful, sweet old lady that I got at home now, because she's not crazy. Like, man, I got buddies who settled down with them girls we used to run around with, and the things that they're still going to. My wife, she laughs about it. She's like, see, aren't you glad you're with me now? Because, yeah, they want to stay in the club. They'll be 32 years old. The football lights have been turned off for 8 years. Nobody's calling anymore for you to come try out for a team, but they still want to be seen in the clubs in Las Vegas. They don't let that life go, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bo Greer, real American hero. He's Clem from The Clem Report. You can read his blog, theclemreport.com, and he's also an Internet Baseball Writers Association of America member. So before we let you go, Clem, had to ask you about this. Giancarlo Stanton signed a record in any sport, $325 million, 13-year deal. What the hell is going on? Is he going to run drugs for the owners of the Marlins in addition to playing baseball? I mean, what is going on?
Well, I mean, I think that we can just go back to the previous subject. Hey, Bo, when your girl got mad at you, would you, spend a little extra on her with a nice little piece of jewelry or a little, some roses or, a nice dinner out? This is exactly it. They made their team a few years ago when they signed Reyes and Burley and all those guys, and then they shipped them all out. And Giancarlo said, "You know what? I'm out of here as soon as I can leave, as soon as I'm a free agent." So now this is all, I'm sorry money. This is Kobe with the pink diamond money right here. So they know exactly what they're doing, and that is a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, I can't even imagine it. What is it? I think Rovell tweeted out $60,000 a day for the next.
Jesus.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. You would think teams would learn about these super long-term contracts by now. They never work out. I mean, seriously, can you think of a 8+ year contract that is, at the end, year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10, the team was like, wow, that was a really smart decision we made?
No, and it really never works out. I mean, they're skewing younger now. They skew to the younger players. Like, I know Evan Longoria was one of the first guys who really signed before he was even eligible for the typical arbitration and stuff like that. So this is kind of the new age stuff. The one big winner in this deal, other than Giancarlo Stanton, obviously, is Mike Trout, because they bought out Trout's arbitration years and then some of his free agent years and all that stuff. But he's going to want to get paid in a few years. So he's the one who's really going to cash in. Bryce Harper, if he can start, putting up those numbers and staying healthy too, I bet they both dwarf the Giancarlo Stanton contract. And let's be honest here. I'm in New York. I'm a Mets fan, though. I think I'll be seeing Giancarlo Stanton in pinstripes in 5 years or so. That's my prediction. So
I will say this real quick. There's an article several years ago, and if I try to say the guy's name, I will just mess it up. But it was talking about how inflation, it hits all of us. It's going to hit these guys too. I mean, golly, I go to the supermarket, and, I'm a big guy. I can never say no to the candy in the aisle when you're checking out. Now they got me paying $3, $4 for 2 Snickers. Like, what's up with that, Sean? So that makes sense. Stanton's getting $325 million. $3 for a Snickers? It was a 50-cent Snickers 10 years ago, Sean. That's inflation, baby. That's why Jay-Z's getting into the business.
I think he probably makes enough money that he can buy as many damn Snickers as he wants.
Well, that's what I'm jealous about. I wish I could buy as many Snickers. No, I'm on a Snickers budget.
If Bo ever hits the lottery, invest in Snickers stock. That's all I'm going to say.
Snickers and Cadillac.
Follow him on Twitter at the Clem Report. Clem, thank you so much for joining us. Great job, man.
Hey, thanks, fellas. Great to be here, and I can't wait to do it again soon.
Have a good one.
Coming up on the show, it's cold all over the United States, but I didn't think hell was going to freeze over. But Bo beat me in NFL picks this week.
Yes.
Oh, God. Plus, we'll take a look at the latest college football playoff rankings and a few other NFL stories. It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Hey, folks, thank you very much for listening and checking out the Sean and Bo Show. And we would love to hear from you. We love interacting with listeners, and there's a few different ways you can do that. Number one, go on Twitter at Sean and Bo Show. Give us a follow. Tweet at us. Also, you can just email us. The address, seanandboshow@gmail.com. Also, check out past episodes you might have missed. We're available on iTunes, YouTube, or at seanandboshow.podomatic.com. Back to the show.
Welcome back to the Sean and Bo Show, and I want to jump right in on this, Sean. It is funny to me that this week in the NFL is starting off almost kind of like the first week in the NFL. LeGarrette Blount leaves the field early in Monday Night Football. Steelers don't even wait halfway through the next business day, and they release him. It's like, watch out.
It was like bring out your malcontent player day and cut them, because he wasn't the only one. All cut today. LeGarrette Blount, Ben Tate of the Browns, and Jason Avant of the Panthers. All in one day, and all seemingly for having crappy attitudes. 2 of the 3 were talking smack about the offensive play calling, and as you just said, LeGarrette Blount actually left the field. Yeah. A coach had to go track him down and bring him to the locker room.
Did you see what coach it was?
Who?
Mr. Porter. I was like,
that makes sense.
I was thinking, who on that staff could go get LeGarrette? Who's that's my job. The crazy coach that's willing to take a punch in the face.
It's not
go
Tomlin.
Get him.
It's not Tomlin.
Yeah, it ain't Tomlin. Go get him. And I could just see Porter I really got to go get this big old dreadlock punching Boise State Broncos in the face and on national TV guy from leaving the field. And he did, but apparently LeGarrette didn't even stick around for the rest of the players to get in the locker room. He made an exit before the reporters could get to him. At one time, LeGarrette Blount coming out of college, I said, I told a lot of people in my circle, he looked like Earl Campbell. Big old thighs, decent speed, can take more than one blow and drag a few guys to the first down marker. But it just hasn't panned out. He went to Tampa Bay, and at Tampa Bay, it seemed like he was heading down the right road, but when Schiano showed up, things didn't quite work out, goes to New England, and there he's at Pittsburgh now.
The crazy part about this to me is that he was getting upset that he wasn't getting any touches. Meanwhile, presumably his buddy, the guy that he was busted smoking weed with earlier this season, had a career day. So when your friend has just a terrific performance, you can't even be happy for the guy. You won the game, first of all, and your buddy's having a career game. How about you hang out?
I think this highlights a bigger issue, though, because in today's NFL, who do we tip our hats to? We tip our hats to the coordinators and the quarterbacks who find ways to use everybody. You implement multiple people. Who would have thought?
But when you have a running back in Le'Veon Bell that's getting 6 yards a carry.
Right now he is. Next week he could have a busted ACL.
Right, but during the game, keep doing it until it stops working. And if it doesn't stop working, you've got no incentive to get another player involved when one guy is tearing it up. Go with what works.
I just think Well, me personally, I love it because Le'Veon Bell is leading my fantasy team.
Oh,
That's
God.
why I picked him up,
Of
Sean,
course.
because they just abuse the man. I don't see how Le'Veon Bell plays longer than, like an 8-year career, the blows that he takes and the amount of passes across the middle he has to get. But LeGarrette Blount should be a part of a nasty two-headed monster. And I can think of a few teams out there that could use him. I mean, golly, look at Indianapolis. Bradshaw's feet are hurting again. Trent Richardson, he can't get a yard of carry to save his life. They could use him right now, right away. Vikings, Adrian Peterson possibly not coming back. Asiata and McKinnon not getting it done. The Vikings went from a team that was in the top 5 in rushing just about every year to not even being in the top 10. So there's teams out there that'll go after him. And for you Chiefs fans, I'd watch out because there's some teams in your division that could add Blunt and they could.
That's what I was gonna say about Ben Tate. I see Ben Tate going to the Broncos.
Yeah.
They need a running presence bad. He's pretty much perfect for that offense. And if you have an attitude problem, maybe the best locker room you can be in is with an old grimy vet like Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
He's not going to put up with any attitude.
No, and I want people to think about something here. Who was the mentor of LeGarrette Blount at Oregon? Chip Kelly. Who has a big problem in a running back that won't hit the holes and is dancing too much? Chip Kelly. Who has a starting quarterback that's out and needs to rely on the running game a little bit more? Chip Kelly. That's another example of where he could be. Sucks for me, stinks for Cowboys fans because I could see LeGarrette Blount just blasting through our defensive line. But the guy's going to land somewhere, and never should a back who in his first 3 to 4 years saw over 300 carries be looking at about 63, I think is what he's sitting at right now. I agree with the man. If he's going to get paid on incentives, he needs to be able to carry the rock.
I'll tell you where I think Jason Avant's going to be going, Bo. Who was his coach before he went to the Panthers? You remember?
Avant was...
He was an Eagle. Andy Reid
oh,
was his coach.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So you have the Chiefs, a team that still hasn't scored a touchdown this season with the wide receiver. They're pretty thin at that position. Of course, they have Dwayne Bowe, but I could definitely see that. He's obviously familiar with what Andy Reid's doing offensively. The only thing is that he's getting
probably already there.
He's getting older though. It's like Dwayne Bowe is already kind of the physical dominating wide receiver type. So, and that's what Jason Avant's always been known for. He's not like a speed guy. So it's not the best fit, but for a team that needs a talent wide receiver. Wow. And obviously already have a pre-existing condition with Reed, I could see that definitely happening.
No, you just rocked my world, man, because I was sitting here thinking about where Avant would land, and I forgot all about the Andy Reid connection. And if you look at that current situation, like you just said, no passing touchdowns yet. So you put Avant in offense, and that looks similar.
He's probably going to be a bargain too.
Yeah,
if he wants to play for Andy Reid. It's going to be a cheap pickup. So look for that possibly happening. Now, Bo, just a couple hours ago, we had the new college football playoff rankings come out. FSU fans are losing their damn mind on Twitter. They are so mad right now. What happened?
Yeah, FSU falls to number 3 after that narrow escape with Miami over the weekend. Number 1... Brace yourself, people. Alabama.
Knew it.
Roll Tide.
I knew it. Yeah, you have to start coming up with a way to get as many SEC teams in the playoffs as possible. This is no surprise to me, Bo.
And this coming on a week that a recruit likens our man Nick Saban to Jesus. So what are you going to do? You can't.
No, not Jesus. Jesus' father.
Oh, God.
God.
I'm sorry. Number 2, Oregon Ducks. That's interesting in itself. The fact that they have one loss and they're leapfrogging that last year's national champion and still undefeated Florida State. I don't care how you win the games. A win is a win is a win is a win. We'll take them any way we can get them in football. Florida State does not deserve to be behind Oregon still, nor do they deserve to be behind Alabama.
Oh, no, I completely think they do. And the reason why they dropped is because Northwestern beat Notre Dame, which is even though they just barely beat Notre Dame, that was one of Florida State's strongest wins. So when Notre Dame gets devalued, so does their strength of schedule.
Yeah, but what's everybody going to say if Missouri upsets somebody in the SEC title game? Anybody can beat anybody on any given Sunday. And I think with college football, we have our any given Sunday scenarios where the mood was right. You had CBS in town. Ole Miss upsets Alabama. Okay, cool. But number one over the undefeated last year's national champ, if Alabama won the national championship last year, I'd have to listen to Feinbaum and everybody else sit up here and talk about, well, that's why Alabama's number one. See, it's because they're last year's national champion. But that doesn't hold true for any of the other conferences. I mean, who is it, Danny Cannell? That guy right there is getting ready to lose it on TV because he's the only ACC guy out there trying to understand what this committee's doing. I think he's given up as of last week. And after this week's poll, I'm interested to see what Cannell has to say. But Mississippi State, number 4, SEC is going to get another chance to make us watch a game. It's going to be called the Egg Bowl. It's going to be Mississippi State and Ole Miss. We're going to have to view that game because regardless of what happens, if it's a close one, they're going to say it's a quality loss. They're going to find a way to get 2 SEC teams in. Just a week ago, I said there might not be any, but now they're going to find a way to put 2 in.
I told you. I told you months ago. It's the economic nature of the beast, man. That's.
And what about TCU? TCU sitting at number 5. What did they do besides have a bye week? I mean, I can understand putting Mississippi State at 5, but TCU, all they did was have a bye week.
They had a strong bye week, Bo. Give them some credit. Oh, by the way, speaking of Florida State, did you hear the advice that Kevin Hart gave to Jameis Winston? In person, mind you.
Wow.
It sounded a little something like this.
You need to stop doing dumb shit.
That's great advice. Great advice. We've both been saying it for a long time. And the video is just classic. It's from TMZ Sports. And after he said that, Jameis looked like a little kid that just got scolded. He has his head down. He's just kind of shaking his head, looking all sad because Kevin Hart just ragged him out in front of the entire team.
I think it's good, and it's definitely an eye-opener for a young man like that, for somebody who he probably sits around watching Netflix, smoking on various things with his various classmates from Florida State, laughing over, to say something like that to him. Hopefully Jameis hears him.
Well, it was a bit of a sad week for NFL ball for me, despite the fact that Kansas City beat Seattle. Awesome. It was my worst week of picks in the entire season. How bad, you ask? Bo beat me. I can't believe it. Now,
yes,
granted,
can we hear that again?
Granted, it was just one pick, one that you beat me by, but congratulations, Bo.
I still won, though.
Yeah, you enjoy that while you can because it's never going to happen
like
again.
I said, Sean, a win is a win is a win is a win.
Yeah, all right. Well, with that in mind, let's go ahead and break your 1-week streak as we take a look at Week 12 of the NFL in a little segment we like to call NFL Picks. First game happens in 2 days from now. Kansas City at the basement-dwelling Oakland Raiders. Spread, KC by 7. Take that. Take it all damn day. It might be a short week for KC, but it's also a short week for the Raiders. Who's got more that they need to figure out? Kansas City definitely rolls.
Yeah, Mr. Carr, even though he shows signs of being an NFL quarterback, he still has a bad problem of throwing it to the other team and sometimes just being really careless with the ball. I'm going to take Kansas City in that one. I imagine around the Kansas City family, the Kansas City Chiefs family and locker room this time, this is the week where the children of the players, personnel, and staff, they're all like, Dad, why can't we go with you to this game? Kids, we're going to Oakland. It's no excuse. You just can't take the kids to Oakland.
All right, well, on to Sunday. First early game features Cleveland at Atlanta. Yuck. Ugly game. I'm not too confident about it. I probably wouldn't even take the 3-point spread, but I will go chalk with the Falcons.
Man, that's interesting. I'm going to go ahead and take Cleveland on this one. I'm going to keep with my winning ways.
Yeah, that's right. Next early game, Tennessee, who played on Monday Night Football. That was a surprisingly decent game. Did you watch the Steelers and the Titans?
Yes.
They didn't look as terrible as I thought they would, but they do play in Philly this week. It's one of the biggest spreads of the week. I wouldn't bet the spread, but I would take the money line. Eagles win.
Yeah, I would go ahead and take the Eagles. Unfortunately, I cannot find a game where they can lose 2 in a row. I need them to start dropping games for my Cowboys, Sean.
Yeah, I know you do. Well, you're not going to get any help this week. Next early game features Detroit at New England. Bo, it's been cold, man. It's been real, real cold. And we all know Tom Brady can play in the cold. It's his time to shine. Patriots win.
Yeah, never take a dome team outside of a dome in a cold weather place. This is one of the rules of gambling.
Speaking of cold weather places, Green Bay at Minnesota. Well, we now know they're not going to have Adrian Peterson anytime soon. I'd imagine that locker room is a little dejected, and Green Bay is America's absolute darling right now. I think the odds, if you bet right now for them to win the Super Bowl, are like 4-1. They're getting a lot of respect right now.
They've scored like 100 points in the past 3 first halves that they've played.
Yeah, and even though they're on the road, it's not going to matter. This one, I would bet the spread. Green Bay by 9.5 sounds good to me.
Yeah, take Green Bay on this one. I bet by second quarter, you're looking at 21-3 in this game.
Biggest spread of the week is when the Jaguars travel to Indianapolis. It's Indy by 14. That makes me a little nervous, but Indy's probably going to win this game. I'd say 95% certainty on that. So, yeah, give me Indy.
This game here is going to show fans that listen to this show why you should listen to me. You're going to take Jacksonville in this game, and this is why.
Oh, God.
This sounds crazy,
yes, it
doesn't
does.
it? It
Yes.
sounds just silly and crazy.
It sounds all of those
But
things.
something happened to Indianapolis that I've been saying when it happens, you can count them out of the playoffs. Ahmad Bradshaw, those feet. Ahmad Bradshaw was brought into Indianapolis to just be a second down kind of back. We're going to give it to you every once in a while. But because Trent Richardson has failed to become the player that he was promised to be out of Alabama, they've had to rely on him a little bit too much. You take that away, that safety valve, that is Ahmad Bradshaw. I can catch passes. I can run in between the tackles. Same thing will happen to Andrew Luck that happened to Eli Manning. He's going to start throwing it to the other team. I'm going to take Jacksonville in this game. Denard Robinson's going to rush for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Do not listen to this man. All right, I'm not going to let you work your trickery on this next pick, so I'm going to make you go first because this is the game that I honestly have no idea. It's a coin flip to me. I'll give you the spread, and you can make your pick. It's Cincinnati at Houston. Now, the spread started as a pick'em. It is now Houston by 2 points. Bo, who you got?
I like Houston. They're playing good.
I agree. I'm not going to disagree with that. But again, if you were to rate your confidence in that pick on a 1 to 5.
It's a 1.
Yeah.
Maybe a negative.
Yeah.
1.
Good luck. Jets at Buffalo. Buffalo just got inundated with snow. I don't know if it's going to warm up by game time, but I like them at home. Spread Buffalo by 4.5. Sounds about right. I'll take the Bills.
The game, when you said that game, I felt like a cold chill go across my neck. Just the whole idea of the New York Jets playing the Buffalo Bills this time of year. Ugh. So
there's a lot of bad games this week.
Bad.
Yeah.
And I just see weather and fumbles and miscommunication, but you got to take Buffalo because they played your Chiefs pretty well, and they're pretty decent. They're all right.
By the way, isn't it the most cathartic thing in the world to have a nice fire going? Maybe you're sitting next to your heater and you're watching a game in the snow.
Yeah.
It is one of life's true pleasures. I love that.
That's what I love about this time of year. I was telling my wife, we go up to the ranch where her family lives and is from for Thanksgiving. I fry a turkey up, and I was just telling her, I said, it's going to be nice this year going up there and actually having a winning record for the Cowboys. Because, there's her grandmother who is basically, she owns the deed to the land that's been in the family for over 200 years. This lady is a huge Broncos fan, so you're not going to badmouth her. Only thing you can point to is the records. So for once, I'm going to be able to talk with her about football. And you better hold up your end of the bargain and put a loss on those Broncos one time this year.
Don't worry, Bill. I'll do what I can.
Get out there. You and Tombo Ali trade places. Me and Tombo do the show. You go hold down the D-line.
Oh, yeah, that'll go great. Speaking of bad games, here's another stinker. The last early game, Tampa Bay at Chicago. Chicago finally won a game. As we discussed, we know Brandon Marshall's getting fired up on Twitter, threatening to fight people. I think the trend continues. Give me the Bears reluctantly.
No, don't take them. Mike Evans is going to go off on Chicago's secondary. I'm going to take Tampa Bay, and this is another. I'm going to start giving out these free fantasy tips. Mike Evans, another 200 yards receiving against these guys, 3 touchdowns. Tampa Bay.
I just encourage our listeners to exercise extreme caution while listening to Bo. All right, next game. This is one of the better games. Arizona at Seattle. Of course, Seattle coming off that loss to Kansas City. Somebody was on Reddit was saying that the Legion of Boom looks more like the Legion of Whom. And even though we know Carson Palmer's been out, I think Arizona surprised a lot of people with how decently they played on offense last week. This one is going against the grain. The spread is Seattle by 6.5. Take Arizona.
The Arizona over Detroit game didn't convince me like I thought it would. I was telling myself before that if Stanton can get this win against this defense, maybe he's legitimate enough to take them to the playoffs. But I didn't see things. I don't see those throws that I want to see that are made by playoff quarterbacks. And I'm going to have to take Seattle in this one. Russell Wilson and them are not going to drop 2 in a row.
This is another game where I'm going against the spread. The Rams, who beat the Broncos, who have been playing every single team extremely tough, even when they lose, play in the frigid, wintry wonderland known as San Diego. Heck, I don't see any reason why I would bet against the Rams at this point in the season.
Yeah, the Rams they seem to be becoming like a lock. You can almost go and allow them to close in on that spread. You can go over-unders with them. The Rams are an exciting team. I like watching them right now. But, Sean, I'm going to have to stop you right there. You're forgetting about Phillip Rivers, Mr. Oliver, Antonio Gates. They're going to put up points. They're not going to continue to lay these eggs that they have been laying. They didn't really have a great offensive performance against Oakland last week. But I'm going to say San Diego keeps it going in the right direction. They beat St. Louis.
This next game is kind of an interesting one to pick. As a Chiefs fan, I certainly know who I'll be rooting to win this game, but you sort of have one team in Miami that seems to be on an uptick. They're playing pretty well lately. Tannehill looked really good. And then you have the Broncos, who just can't seem to get things together right now. They're two teams that just seem to have different momentum. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Peyton Manning's going to find a way to win. Give me the Broncos.
Yeah, man. There's just a few things you don't do in life, and that one of those is betting against Manning and one of his teams after a loss like that. Give me Manning any day. Broncos are going to win this big.
This one's going to be a beatdown, the final afternoon game. The hapless Washington Redskins, where things seem to be falling apart internally. We heard the coach yelling at RG3 about his comments. Seems to be just a bad locker room right now. Playing the Niners, who, man, they got to have some serious pent up aggression at this point.
All right, Sean. I've been wanting to have this talk.
I'm taking the Niners, by the way.
Go ahead, take the Niners.
Yeah,
because we got to have this discussion.
Uh-huh.
Look at the Niners season. Does it seem to you like there's a lot of games where they've just benefited from playing a team right when the wheels came off? I mean, look at the Cowboys the first week. Look at the Giants last week. I mean, you can go through the list, and you're like, man, the Niners got to win when this guy got hurt or the week that this guy got.
I didn't say that they're going to do anything in the playoffs, but I think they got enough talent to beat the Redskins.
Well, that's what I'm going to bring up. Watch how bad Dallas puts it on the New York Giants in Sunday Night Football. That's going to show you where the Giants are. It's going to show you where the Niners are. I'm going to pick Washington in this game.
Oh, no.
Because of this simple reason. Nothing worse than ex-players. I can't think of the linebacker's name. Ex-player was just, they're calling out RG3, the coaches, the GM, the ownership. I imagine everybody went and looked in a mirror in Washington, and I don't think they're doing that in San Francisco. They're looking at that New York Giants victory as if they just went and took down the best team in the league. I just think San Francisco loses this game, and you can go ahead and pencil me in for the next one. You know that I'm going to pick on the next
Well,
game.
Vegas disagrees with you, by the way. The spread in that game, Niners by 9 points. Okay,
It's a trap.
I'm going to agree with you on Dallas. So let's move on to Monday night. This is going to be a great game. Maybe it's kind of a coin flip between the Arizona-Seattle game and this one for game of the week. Baltimore at New Orleans. Now, traditionally, the Saints have been world beaters at home. Mm-hmm. They've lost their last 2 home games. Something's got to give, man. You know, you have an angry team coming in and playing a team trying to figure things out. Drew Brees, I'd like to see his numbers. I mean, I'm sure they're still probably pretty impressive in today's NFL, but it just doesn't feel like he's having as great of a year as he's had in the past. I don't know exactly what their problem is down there in New Orleans, but I don't think they figure it out on Monday Night Football. Even though the spread is Saints by 3.5, give me the Ravens.
Yeah, when they just had a receiver go down, it's either Stills or Cooks. I think it was Brandon Cooks is out with a broken thumb. Either way, that's going to hurt. Colston never had a step on anybody. When Colston came in the league, he was a 4.6 guy, 4.7 probably, if you clocked him with a clock that wasn't run by his agent or the Saints organization. You take out the speed and those little receivers that he can dump it off to. Graham is going to be double covered. They're going to put somebody over top, put a linebacker underneath. I'm going to take Baltimore in this one.
There you have it. Bo has picked, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, contrary to my pick, so expect him to lose big.
After a week where my man didn't even break 500. At least
No, I did.
You did? You
Yes,
broke 500?
Yes, I did,
oh,
Bo.
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
See,
that's
I'm
right.
always at least at 500 or a game above 500.
Oh, don't worry.
So if you can decipher the code that I'm putting out there.
I am still beating you like a drum.
I
on
give
the
away
season.
parlays every week, Sean. You just got to find them.
You give away losing parlays every week. I don't think that's helping anybody.
Oh, man.
Well, we wanted to say thank you to our guest, Clem, from the Clem Report, theclemreport.com. Follow him on Twitter at The Clem Report. Until next week, I'm Sean O'Donnell, along with my co-host, Bo Greer, reminding you, tip your pizza man.
See you next week.